Hello and welcome to another chess game of mine, but in this video I decided to do something different, and now I'm going to show you a game from my beginner years. So when I played this game I was only 11, and actually this is a very interesting game with sort of a miraculous finish at the end. So let's get started. I'm playing this game with the black pieces, so I flip the board, and my opponent is actually a same-aged boy who well, in the beginning we were very fierce rivals, so we played many games. So let's get started. My opponent started with e4, and well, in my beginner years I played the so-called Alekhine defense, so I played knight f6. Well, it is known to be kind of a bad move, but as a kid I had a lot of success with it because it contains quite some traps, and well, if your opponent is not that prepared, that you can very easily win with it. So my opponent played knight c3, d5, e5, knight e4, and we actually had this opening against each other several times already in the past. d4, I took here, and c5. And yeah, obviously this is not the best line against the Alekhine. Actually, the current position I would already say is it's quite alright for black. So basically, imagine if you get a regular French, like this, e6, d4, like the Vinevar or something, knight c3, bishop b4, e5, c5, a3, so this is like the French, and you got this position with black, and now I got this position with black, sorry, like after c5, it's also me to move, my bishop is free to go outside, I haven't had to give up my dark square bishop, so yeah, this opening is actually quite alright. So the game continued with bishop e3, knight c6, knight f3, so now it comes that I can develop my own bishop, bishop g4, bishop e2, two regular developing moves, e6, castle, bishop e7, queen d2, and castles. Yeah, so I haven't mentioned how strong we were at this point. So actually I don't think either of us had an international rating, but I would guess that our ratings were about 1700, 1800, so not very strong. So also for this reason this game is going to be quite instructive. So well, we're making a lot more mistakes than people expect grandmasters to make. So let's go on. So my opponent played knight e1, bishop e2, queen e2. So the game actually is quite clear how it should unfold. Well, I will try to attack his weak center and c-pawns, and he's supposed to just launch an attack against my king. And well, actually I'm supposed to be quite quick with the black pieces here, so I should be doing alright. So the game went on with queen a5, my opponent went back with queen d2, now I developed my rook to c8, so everything looks quite normal. Comes queen d3, and in this position I decided that well, at some point this c file is supposed to be open. At some point either he takes or I take or something is going to happen, so I decided to double up on the c file. So my opponent played rook I played rook c7, my opponent came with knight f3, and here I actually played a quite nice move. So I anticipated that my opponent might try to play bishop g5, exchanging my bishop, then probably his knight could come to g5, creating all sort of threats. Well, threat like this. So I decided, well, it's a nice idea to just play h6, avoid him ever coming to g5, and well, keep my bishop. So the game went on with rook fb1. So it seems that he's not really, my opponent doesn't really know where to play. So he plays something like rook b5 or so, but his play is really just against my king, because in the long term, especially in the center and in the queen side, white is supposed to be just collapsing at some point. So I played the move rook fc8. My opponent went back with knight e1. And while here, actually I got a bit scared. I got scared that might be coming some rook b5 and my queen might be trapped or something. So I played the move rook d7 to make some space for my queen to come back. But it was clearly a lot better if we just take on d4 finally, that we opened up this whole file, and after cd there could be knight b4 coming, and well, black is just doing very fine. So this is attacked, so here I'm doing very good. But well, this is not what I did. I played the move rook d7. Now my opponent played a4, and then I withdrew with my queen. So here, well, actually now my pieces are not so good, right? They came back. I'm not doubling on the c-file anymore. It's not clear where my threats are. And finally, also my opponent figured out, well, his play is to checkmate me. So he now tries this with f4. Well, I was also a bit afraid that I would get mated, so I played the move f5, which I think is quite nice. Here, probably you could have tried, well, take on f6, that makes the most sense, and then after bishop f6 he can come back, go on with his attack. So this would have been probably better, but then he played the move queen e2, so he let me keep the center closed. So now at some point he probably would like to play g4 and open up the position that way. I play knight a5, that's a nice maneuver to put the knight to c4. Comes bishop f2, knight c4. Now he rerouted his knight to d3. I played b6 to keep my pawns here defended. And now he made the move queen h5. And here again I played quite a nice move, so now that the queen is away, I know that the best square for my knight would be on e4, so I decided that knight d2 and knight e4 is a nice idea. He came with rook b5, knight e4, now came queen g6. So his queen is finally close to my king, but there is not much of a support for this queen, so we have to watch out that our pawn is hanging, so I defend with queen c6, but otherwise the position is quite nice. So here my opponent played bishop e1, probably his plan is to play rook f2 and try to eliminate my strong knight. I played bishop f8 to keep things under control. He played knight f2, and here I played a strange move, rook e7. But probably my idea is to play queen e4 and still claim that while the endgame, this bishop against this bishop, that should be just winning for black. Took on e4. And here I decided to take back with the d pawn. So the point is that here we already have a nice d5 square for us, and also at some point I can try to open up the center and then well, just win all his pawns. So he played the move bishop f2 to keep things together for a while. I played rook d7, so now I'm at some point I would like to take, and also the exchange sacrifice if bishop takes back could be in the air. He played the move rook ab1, and I took on d4, bishop d4, and queen c4. So here clearly my idea is to play rook takes d4 and get some counterplay that way. My opponent played the move a5, so once he doubled on this b file he wants to open it, but I was willing to take that, so let him do that. B takes e5, he came with rook b8, and here I went back with my rook. So now actually I took this pawn, and this pawn could be very dangerous. It's very quick to just push forward. So here he really needs to get very quick counterplay for his pawn. He went back with rook b7, and here I was like, yeah, queen f7 is a threat, but it's not just a check, so I ignored it and just pushed my pawn. Here he continued with rook takes a7. And in this position I actually invite you to stop the video, because now the game starts to sort of unleash and get out of control. So also the time control for this tournament, I still remember that it was in 2006, so there was no increment. It was like 2 hours for the whole game, and you can actually flag at the end. So here we only had very limited time left, I for sure remember. So rook a7 seems like a huge mistake. However, the position is not so clear, so the best move in this position will be just playing king h8, get out of all the checks, and then black is doing completely fine. This a pawn is going to queen, and there is no attack from the white side. However, I was very eager to quickly win, and I also sort of thought I saw a nice combination, so I played the move rook takes d4. The idea is very clear. After c takes d, I want to play queen d4 check, king h1, queen takes a7, and I'm pretty sure this is what I would have done. But the problem is that now it's white to move, plays queen e6, and this is a double attack. And actually, with black now we're pretty much on the verge of losing. By something like king h7, queen c8, and white material advantage is just very huge. All the hopes is in this a pawn, but yeah, this is just a bad position actually. So even though rook takes d4 seemed like a very nice move, this is actually not a good one. However, my opponent also believed in my sort of bluff. So what he did is he went absolutely all in. He played the move rook b7. So here clearly he wants to mate me. So I have to checkmate him first. But it seems like I have enough material for that. So the game went on with rook d1 check, king f2, queen f1 check, king g3. His problem is that now another rooks comes in, rook c3, again a check, king h2, queen takes f4 check, king h5. So I have very limited time here. Also my opponent has very little time. And well, his position is actually simply mate in one, but I didn't see. And after the game, actually my mom was the one who told me that, yeah, Adam, queen takes h2 was just made in one. So my mom is not such a good player actually, but yeah, she saw this and I didn't. So, but here I thought, well, I'm up by huge material, all I have to do is just exchange the queens. So I played queen g4, very natural move, but after queen takes g4, f takes g4, my opponent played rook e8. This position is actually very tricky, because his plan is just to play king g6, and his king is just saved there, and then because I'm pinned on the first rank, he's going to play rook g7 and actually going to, well, at this point going to checkmate me, but also he can just give a perpetual. So if I put the rook on the f file, he's going to just give me a perpetual. I will show this later. So actually in this position, I should have stopped him by all costs from getting his king to g6. So the best move here was to play king h7, with the idea that after rook f1, I play something like rook h1, and actually if we count the material, I'm still having like 6 pawns, he only has 4 pawns, I'm clearly going to take all the ones on the second rank, his king is just now actually not too safe anymore, and yeah, I'm just up huge material, so the computer just says -10. However, I was 11 and I thought, well, I'm up by a piece as well, so why not just hang on to this. I played the move rook f1. And now comes just the miracle, because my opponent played king g6, and even though I'm up by a piece and a couple of pawns and it seems that I'm completely winning, his king is on g6, which is ridiculous. His king is actually very active, and I can do absolutely nothing against rook g7 and rook h7 perpetual. Even it's actually my move and I could do nothing. So I played the move rook f5, hoping to checkmate him, but that's not happening because he played rook g7, king b here, and then we are repeating and the game ended in a perpetual pursuit, so in a draw. Yeah, so this was a game when I was 11, and I think it was a very super interesting game. And also, as in the code, the miracle actually happened, so my opponent didn't give up, and he managed to hold the game and save the draw. So well, let me know what you think about this game, and whether you want to see more of my games when I was sort of a beginner. And see you next time.